Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode of Semi-Pro. I'm Dalton Barrett. In the booth with me, I have Joshua Clements and Bobby. And David Newell, maybe if he wakes up in time for us to get started. Today, we watched The Visit. And a visit we had indeed. Something certainly happened when we watched this movie.
The
No.
visit came from all four movies.
We visited a realm in which we watched this.
I was
We
visited
visited
by lack of
Philadelphia.
sanity. Most normal day in Philadelphia.
Shyamalan visited my brain, and now he lives there.
Shyamalan visited my brain and left with all my sanity.
I hate this movie. And I only saw half of it. I pulled a Daniel yesterday, and I came in about halfway through the watching of The Visit, and I did not finish it.
You did not finish?
No,
it?
I finished it. I guess I didn't watch the full movie.
He finished the visit. He just never started. He
I never started
visited.
visiting.
But
he-
in terms
he-
of completion, you didn't finish it. Yes. Yes?
I hate you.
Banger?
Wow,
I
you're gonna
hate this
fit. You're gonna fit right in, Bobbin. You're gonna fit in perfectly with our little podcast.
with a little mental asylum.
Speaking of
goodness.
mental asylum, let's talk about The Visit. I don't want to talk about this movie. I'm gonna be completely honest. I really don't.
No. We planned Shyamalan's movie and we were like, I think
We.
this. I'll
Put it in-
take most of the responsibility for this. I was like, I remember the trailer for The Visit being a fun, quirky movie. That'd be fun to watch with the boys. And then we started watching it, and I think almost immediately after starting it, I in my head thought maybe this wasn't the fun movie I was thinking it was, because I haven't seen it in about 5 years.
I'd like to bring up the point that Joshua Clements made an off comment during our viewing of The Visit, where he said he would watch the trailer on repeat when it came out.
Yes.
And I'd like to shed some light on that peculiar comment because why? Why would you do that?
Because I was a let's call it challenged child, and I was like, scary movie fun, and
I love the trailer for The Visit. Please play it. Please
think-
play it. Please play it.
I would like one Visit trailer, please.
Josh, you say child. You were 15 years old.
16-year-old.
You were 16 years old.
16 going on 22.
I remember being in high school. This would have been my sophomore year, I guess. No. Yeah, my sophomore year of high school is when this movie came out. And I remember being invited to go see it. Like, some of my friends were going to go see it together. And I said no, because I did not want to watch The Visit. I missed out on time I could have spent with pals, and instead watched it 7, 8 years later.
And you watched it to talk about it on a podcast.
I did, and that's so much sadder. And I regret a lot of things growing up, but this is one of them. This tops the list.
I don't really have a defense for this. That's all. I think I just
I have
like the
no
trailer. I like the trailer because I like horror movies, and at the time there wasn't a streaming service. We didn't have Netflix or anything, and so I was just like, Visit movie trailer.
So Joshua Clements, since you're such a big Visit fan, you're such a big visitor, as they call it.
I'm a visitor. We call ourselves that.
So can you tell us the synopsis of this great film here?
They visit.
Oh,
2015.
he's here.
What happens in The Visit?
Despite watching it last night, it's kind of a blur, other than a couple of moments. There's
T
Kath-
Diamond Stylus
Catherine Hahn is a mum who hasn't talked to her parents in like 16 years because they disapproved of her boyfriend. And she's like, I want to go on a cruise because I hate my children. I would like both of you to go stay with your grandparents you do not know for like a week. Goodbye. And then she just kicks them out.
Yeah.
She just wanted some hairy Hispanic man to grind on her. There's nothing wrong with that.
Daniel comes in and he sounds like a robot. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's what happens.
There are two children. One of them is a pretentious documentarian, and the other one is a pretentious child rapper. One of them's just M. Night, straight up, who's trying to film a documentary about her mum, and I think her mum and her parents' relationship. And so they're on the train, they're just chilling, and the ticket guy comes over and it's like, hey, I need your tickets. Sees that they're filming and immediately goes, I used to be an actor. Now, this movie was described on IMDb as a horror comedy. There's definitely some comedy. There's not a lot of horror, and the comedy is not where it's meant to be, because I think that's meant to be a joke. But there's no payoff.
Yeah,
to
no,
it.
that was
Like a
I
running
guess you
gag.
could say I don't know if you call it a running gag because it only happened twice.
It's a walking.
Yeah, it's weird that it
it's a
happened twice
walking
and not
gag.
more or less.
Well, you
Like,
think
I
like the rule of threes and everything, you do it a third time. Maybe the police turn up at the end of the movie and they find these two traumatized children, and one of them goes, I used to be an actor.
Maybe that was like just like M. Night experienced that a couple times, like when he was filming stuff.
He would go up to
But
Bruce
it
Willis.
only ever happened twice. So
He
he
would
was
guys
like,
know
yeah, I'll
that-
put it in my movie twice.
He would go up to
Everyone in
Bruce Willis.
Philadelphia used to be an actor. That's just the Philadelphia
Well,
rule.
that is true. Yeah.
He when he was making movies, he would have the camera on Bruce Willis, and Bruce Willis would just turn around and be like, I used to be an actor, and then start quoting Shakespeare.
He would deliver really shitty Shakespeare monologues.
And then the two kids get off and they meet their grandparents, and they're old. Foreshadowing.
No.
Um,
The movie Old?
they're the movie
Is
Old.
this the movie Old?
I wish this was the movie Old, because I think the movie Old's
Me
more
too.
fun than this movie.
Me too, man.
And so that's really the plot, is that they meet their grandparents, and the grandparents are kind of kooky and weird, and then that just like happens for the next hour and 20 minutes, and then suddenly the movie's over.
Let me
Mm-hmm.
wrap that synopsis up and say
Oh, you're gonna rap? You're too
Oh,
down in
I'm not
Stylist?
gonna
Wait.
rap. I'm gonna I will never. But I will say that this movie was terribly boring. I hated this movie. This movie sucked.
Yeah.
I usually don't say that movie sucked. This movie sucked.
I'm usually, when it comes to movies, I act pretentious, but I will watch any movie and get enjoyment out of
Yeah,
it.
right.
But
You've been
this
saying
mov-
that a lot, and you've always, every time after you say it, you say, but this movie, I don't have any enjoyment out of. And you've said
Yeah,
this on
it's-
like 3 episodes of this season of the podcast.
It's funny how it only ever happens for the podcast episodes and not movies that I enjoy watching.
You don't get to pull
No,
that
I
card
think-
here
I think-
because
I
you
think you're
picked
just
this.
pretentious.
Yeah, you picked The Visit, Josh.
I'm being persecuted for my love of The Happening again.
This has nothing to do with The Happening. We didn't watch The Happening.
I wish we had watched The Happening.
I would have loved to have watched The Happening.
I'm going to clip that. I'm going to soundbite that. And I'm going to make sure that Dalton remembers he said that for the rest of his life.
Oh,
It's not a testament to The Happening. It's just it's a testament to this movie.
That's a
this-
testament to The Happening.
There's this weird
Nothing is a
framing.
testament to The
There's this
Happening.
weird framing element of this movie where it's like it's told over the course of a weekend, or is it a whole week? It's a whole week, right?
It's a week.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a full week.
So
It
it's a full
starts
week.
on Monday, I think.
And the first half of this movie is like Monday through Thursday, and then the second half is the last 2 days, Thursday and
Right.
Friday. And I missed the setup, but I got to the twist, and then I got to the resolution at the end. And these kids are just like
The worst.
really boring. Like they're not like
They're
I don't
boring.
hate them.
They're boring, bordering on annoyance.
Sure.
I wouldn't say bordering on. I'd say they're just annoying.
Well, I don't like. Okay, the one girl wants to be a documentarian because I guess you need some kind of fame device in a movie because you need it to be found footage because you can't just make a movie.
Oh, I forgot.
I
You guys,
hate found
hey,
footage.
Hey, do you guys remember found footage?
I remember when it was big in 2008 with Paranormal Activity.
And by that you mean Chronicle, which is the only good found
like
footage movie to ever be made.
In that period of time, from 2008 to about 2013, there was a ton of found footage movies because that was how people thought, oh, Paranormal Activity made a movie for $10,000 and got 15 million. I can do that. I have a camera at home. You can't do that. Don't think you can do that because you can't.
No, you can. Everyone out there should know that you can make a movie for $10,000 and get 15 million. So go do it.
You can make a movie for $10,000. Will it be a good movie? Will it be a good movie like M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit? No.
Right.
Here's my thing about found footage. I will say this right here, and this is a bold statement, but I say it with my full heart into this statement. The Blair Witch Project is the worst thing to ever happen to horror movies. And I know people like that movie, and that movie's not bad. That movie's not horrible, but it created this culture of like these found footage movies. They're really cheap to make. You don't have to have a big set. You just grab a creepy house somewhere and 4 actors. That's all you need for the whole movie is 4. You need 2 kids and 2 elderly people. None of them have to be very good at acting because it's just found footage. And then you can, just like M. Night Shyamalan, make a movie for $5 million and make $98.5 million gross worldwide.
Did this movie really make $98.5 million?
This movie made $98.5 million, which gives it like if you factor out the production cost of this movie, if you factor out the budget, this movie made $98 million.
Man.
Because it only cost $5 million to make, it's so frustrating. It is also known as Untitled Blumhouse Horror 1.
That's a better title than The Visit.
Yeah.
That's more accurate of a movie title than The Visit was, because this was just this was just like Blumhouse horror. That's all it was. There wasn't any like it's completely inconsequential.
It wasn't horror. It was just slightly kind of jump scary things happen, and sometimes there's a creepy visual. Like it was
creepy old people.
It wasn't.
If I wanted to see creepy old people, I'd just visit a nursing home. Like,
right, I'd visit my grandparents.
I don't like. Even then, it wasn't even particularly creepy. There's like 2, maybe 3 different creepy things that the grandparents do, and then that's about it.
I hate the idea of making a found footage movie, and like if you're gonna make a found footage movie,
commit to
it.
Actually, make it look like a found footage movie. Don't shoot in 4K quality.
Don't use a focus pull.
You have to commit to it and make everything else about the movie exceptional to make up for the fact it's found footage. Right. But also, don't shoot on a cinema camera.
Right.
Because then it's just not. That's like the center point of your movie is the fact that it's found footage and you're making it not believable.
The whole premise of found footage is just like, oh, it's literally found footage. You're walking out
it's
one
a real thing.
I think that this movie suffers from M. Night's pretentiousness outweighing his laziness.
Ooh.
No, M. Night could never be pretentious.
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Ooh, what a statement, Daniel. That was incredible. So well crafted. You're such a wordsmith.
That's actually why I showed up late. I was just jotting that down.
He was rehearsing it in the mirror.
He was just rewatching The Happening to make sure that The Happening can't get out.
Yeah, no, it was The Happening. You're right.
You needed to clear out the taste of your mouth from The Visit.
Right.
Okay. On a side note, the children characters were not interesting, engaging, or anything like that. But I will say the child actors were really good. The
Right, I was gonna
delivery
say
was really good.
the children, like the issue of the children is not how the children are being played. It's just the fact that M Night does not know what children are like.
Right.
I would
I
also
think
like
I
to
think it's
note.
just that
I
M Night was really annoying as a child. That's what this movie told me.
M Night was definitely the girl who just kept on walking up to random people and asking them like documentarian questions.
Who just kept on using like obnoxiously large words that like there are like smaller words to to define these words,
Right,
and she was just
you
using
could
them
get
to
like
show that she knows big words.
you could say
M Night
like,
was
oh
definitely that
please.
kind of kid.
She could have said like, oh please stop or something, but instead she goes, I would like you to cease from operating like this. Like just pull it back, M Night.
It,
Just
it,
stop.
it should
Just stop.
also be noted. I don't know that the kids said anything after I started watching the movie. They maybe like one or two lines of dialogue when they were talking to their mom on the Skype call. But other than that, like they didn't talk much after I started watching the movie. For most of the second half of the movie
Well,
is just silent with like
the
creepy noises and the grandparents grunting and playing Yahtzee. Like,
Mhm.
well,
it-
the first half of the movie is just kind of the kids talking to the grandparents, and then the grandparents saying or doing vaguely creepy things, but could just be attributed to they're old people, so it's fine, and that's about it. And then the second
Foreshadowing.
half of the movie is the grandparents doing increasingly creepy things, and the children just kind of being quieted and wanting to go home. Um, so like I don't know.
But with that,
This movie,
it should be noted, like there's not much dialogue in the second half of this movie
no,
from
no.
anyone. Like people are barely speaking. It's mostly silent. And I don't know if you know this about movies. Like there's music, of course. I don't know if you know this about movies, but without people talking, they're really boring.
Well, you can do a silent movie and people doing that back in the whatever. But like
Yeah, but
you
those
need to
movies were
have
like
something
30 minutes
happen.
long, Josh. They were like
Right.
30
Yeah.
minutes, and they would put words on the screen in the middle in place of dialogue.
I wish that this movie was only 30 minutes long. I think I would have really enjoyed it if that were the
Even-
case.
You know,
it's
this
like-
this sounds like The Visit would be a good short film. And
Yeah,
this
this-
is like a short film idea they made into a feature, but wrote
yeah.
on the day of.
Right. This feels like a premise. It feels like kids visit their grandparents and the grandparents are creepy. Okay, what else? The grandparents are creepy. Like there's no meat to the plot.
What if I got to film a naked old lady scratching the wall? Haha, wouldn't that be so funny, guys? Ha 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 ha. I mean
That's
scary.
another
Wouldn't that be scary? Haha. Or
Weird
funny
thing
maybe?
is that the grandma was naked twice, and
Yeah.
it wasn't like spooky or weird. It was just like
It was just like, oh,
why is this old lady
Yeah,
naked
no, there
in
was
this movie, M. Night?
reason
that's
for her
just
to be naked in context.
I would
other
like to
than
correct you
a
really
weird old
quickly.
lady.
I'd like to correct you really quickly, Bobbin. It is not
Okay.
spooky. It is weird.
right.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Well, it was just like M Night's like, oh, what's creepy? Oh, naked ladies, naked old women. Like
No, I
they're
think just naked ladies.
naked
That's
ladies.
what M Night thinks is creepy.
Well, there's that one scene like I can't emphasize how much this movie was just nothing happening but unconnected creepy things. That's about it.
Unconnected creepy things that aren't even creepy.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. Like it set up scares, but it wasn't engaging, so you weren't like spooked ever. Maybe it was the fact that Dalton is extremely loud and talks over everybody. But even so, like it's just not.
I think at every single scene that was meant to be scary, I laughed at. I think all of us laughed at.
The only one
And I
I
don't
think
think
came across as not scary, but like a creepy visual. The only creepy visual that really came across the way it was supposed to is when the girl finds her real grandparents. And they hold on that for like 2 seconds, and then we're back to fake grandparents who aren't creepy. Like finding dead bodies in the basement of the house where you're staying, that's creepy. And then the grandpa's like chasing her down. We should talk about the twist of this movie. because we haven't really done a plot
The
breakdown
twist
because
that's going to be in the title.
Hold on,
you guys
hold on.
already know.
Spoilers if you're a big
If you care
Shyamalan
about the
fan
visit.
oh,
and
Bobbin,
you want to watch The Visit. What's
Bobbin,
that?
you have no idea. For this sweep, we're putting the twist of every movie in the title.
Oh, never mind. Never mind.
So you already know what it is. So they're at this house. We haven't done much of a plot breakdown for this movie because there's no plot to this movie.
Right.
There really isn't like a
The
plot.
plot is creepy things happen. Like
Yeah.
that's what I mean when I say this feels like a concept.
So
Like
the kids,
it's like someone going, "Hey, make a horror movie about
The
what?"
Visit is an
horror.
elevator pitch.
Right.
I think this movie would have been a really good book. This movie is a book that they
Yeah.
didn't. It's like when somebody takes the story from a book and directly adapts it into a movie because that's never good. Like when Stephen King takes his books, like his version of The Shining, that's what this reminds me of. Where it's like you don't change the things that you need to change to make it good because it's sort of like because books are a little more. They're a little calmer, understated, that sort of thing. And when you adapt those to a movie, you have to really kind of bump that up a little bit visually because your brain is not doing that by default. Because that's what happens when you read, your brain starts filling in those gaps. This is a great book concept because here's what you do as you're reading it. As you're reading the book, you're going to put yourself in there. You're going to picture your own grandparents. You're going to picture your own self as a child. You're going to put yourself into those characters. With a movie, you can't really do that, so you have to do other things to adapt that. That's what this movie feels like to me. Like it feels like a
No,
book.
I definitely pictured myself in this movie as the rapping 12-year-old.
Right.
No doubt.
Right.
Right.
So
He's a new literally me character.
so they're at their grandparents' house. They get picked up, whatever. Creepy things happen. Things start to go weird. They're Skyping their mother, and they hold up the webcam to like show the grandparents outside. And the mother says, "Hey, kids."
Well, she says super calmly.
Yeah.
Like
Hey,
I was like,
guys,
is this a bit? Like I knew that it was that was the twist. But I was like, is that actually the twist? Was I lied to? Is she
No,
just joking?
She's just like, "Hey kids, I need
She's
to
just
I
like,
need to
hey,
speak to you for a second. I want to have a word."
That's not your. And like already the kids were like begging her. They were like, mom, you need to drop what you're doing. Get in your car. Come get us. Your grandma and grandpa are they're scaring us. Just please come get us. And she was like, no, you guys are fine. I'll get you tomorrow. And then she like finds out that that's not her parents, and she still just doesn't immediately drop everything and go get her kids. Yeah, admittedly, she does try and call the cops, but that was after like a minute or two.
Well, yeah, but she's also like, she also doesn't call 911. She calls the town's like police department.
Well,
and
I
then
mean
just gives
that
up.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Admit. I mean, she didn't give up because the cops showed up at the end.
Well, yeah, because
yeah.
when you call
In that
your
5-second
own-
scene at the end that just like moves on extremely quickly.
After the child killed the old man with the fridge.
After he kingpinned him.
After he
We'll get there,
decapitates a man.
guys. We'll get there. So the mom says in her best Marky Mark from The Happening impression, those aren't your grandparents. And so it leads us down this rabbit hole. This is when like the story starts to quote unquote, I'm using air quotes here, ramp up. And so they start like understanding, like they knew something creepy was going on, but now they know that like straight up that's not their grandparents. And so Grandpa, or Pop as he's called, wants to play Yahtzee. And so they're playing Yahtzee, whatever. He gets up to poop because he wears diapers. Grandma's losing her mind.
That was another thing that was set up, and one of the only things in this film that actually had payoff that I wish hadn't was the grandpa pooping in diapers
and the kid being a germaphobe.
Right.
And so
The kid is a germaphobe because his dad left him, and the girl can't look at herself because the dad left them.
Yeah, whatever.
That's
the
it.
girl.
That's the only setup this movie has.
The girl goes.
This movie is terrible. This movie's bad, man. This movie
This movie's real rough.
So the girl goes to the basement, and it was one of those moments like every time you watch a horror movie and somebody goes to the basement, you're like, hey, don't go to the basement. But this time it makes even more sense not to go to the basement because, like, you already know that something bad is going to happen in the basement. It's not like, oh, vaguely creepy things have happened. You know that these aren't your grandparents.
She should have tried to investigate the basement earlier in the movie when she saw her grandma down there like puking or whatever. She should have tried to like investigate the next morning. Then grandpa could have been like creepy and shady about it and been like, hey, don't go in the basement. She'd be like, what? Okay. And then she sets up her continually wanting to go, blah, 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 whatever.
So she goes to the basement.
No, she just went there.
She's in the basement. She just goes there. She just goes down to the basement. Upon doing so she finds a picture of her actual grandparents, and then she finds her actual grandparents dead in the basement.
Well, as she's going down to the basement, she's like, maybe my grandparents are down here. Like, what, you think they're still alive down there? And they're just chilling, playing Yahtzee?
Yeah, they might have been. Maybe they had 2 copies of Yahtzee. You don't know.
They were playing Jenga. Basement Jenga. So she goes down, she finds the bodies of her grandparents, and she's like moderately fazed by it, but not super fazed by it. Pop is also down in the basement, and he explains why. Apparently, this is her grandparents' neighbors, and
no, not neighbors. This I only know from watching people talk about this movie because the movie did a horrible job of setting this up. These are meant to be escaped psychiatry patients that the real grandparents volunteered and worked with.
Oh,
yeah,
that would be a great thing to set up in the movie.
Well, they
tried to. They had that one woman show up and be like, oh, I'm from the rehab center where your grandparents used to work down at the old insane asylum. Have you seen them in a while? They haven't been to work.
Is that the woman who got?
And they're like, oh,
she got hanged.
Cool.
Or was hung.
She just turns up and is like, hey, what's going on? They're like, oh, I think they're around. She sees them arguing.
Yeah, that's a reoccurring thing is that whenever people show up that know her grandparents or whenever they're talking to their mom, who obviously knows her own parents, the grandparents are not there because it's not them.
Because then they would point and they would go, not your grandparents, not your grandparents.
Run.
The fog is coming.
The fog is coming. That'd be great.
So that's when things sort of unravel.
We should have just watched The Fog instead.
Turns out these people, this woman, Nana, killed her own children, and her husband, Pop, wanted to... Which every time I hear Pop, I think of Arrested Development, which is also apparently a theme with Shyamalan Sleep. So maybe M. Night Shyamalan is just a big Arrested Development fan.
Pop's in the attic.
I'm having Pop in the attic.
Pop in the attic.
The fact that you still call it Pop means you're not ready for this. It means you're not ready for a poopy diaper in the face.
So
no, I'm ready for that.
He wanted, which it's honestly kind of sweet if it wasn't so weird. He wanted his wife, if they weren't insane people, they wouldn't do this. But anyway, he wanted her to have the experience of being a grandmother for a week.
Well, yeah, because he said that that the grandparents, they kept talking about how excited they were to see their grandkids and how great it was going to be. He was like, oh, big mistake. They shouldn't have told us that because now we want it. Now
we killed them and we're going to also kill you. He says everyone dies tonight, so it was supposed to be
he's crazy and he thinks that there's like a monster that lives inside people.
I think they both think that there's like a demon after them and the demon made them like kill their kids. Because I remember they both had some dialogue about someone with like red eyes.
It was yellow eyes. I remember that part. And he was in the
earlier in the movie, he like beats a man because he says that he's following them, and the guy was just not. He was
like on his phone.
Philadelphia.
Most normal Philadelphia resident.
So then the girl gets locked in the bedroom upstairs with Nana, and the boy is paralyzed with fear, I guess. He doesn't move. He stands in one location while he gets a diaper shoved in his face. Like, he just straight up doesn't move. I guess it's like a control thing. I don't know if that was set up.
It's set up that he has issues because his dad left him.
Well, no,
No,
I
we're not
guess
talking-
no. That is
Josh.
true. It was set up because he was talking about like
We're not talking
Oh,
about
yeah,
we're not
some
talking about
little
Shyamalan. We're talking about the boy from the movie. I know Shyamalan has issues. We're talking about the kid he put in his movie.
no. It was set up in. They were like doing.
He had
some,
like a
filming
football game,
something.
and
yeah. And
he had like a
before his
football
dad
game.
left, he didn't tackle someone, and he just he froze and just stood still or something. And then he thinks that's the reason his dad left. And and then he gets catharsis and tackles an old man, and Mel Gibson / Kingpins him with a fridge.
He beats that man with a fridge, which
I still think should have been the oven because that was almost kind of set up in a Hansel and Gretel-y way.
Yeah.
I really thought they were going to shove Nana in the oven, and they should have shoved Nana in the oven.
Absolutely.
Oh that I don't get why they didn't.
That's again like they did that with at least two different things in this movie. They did twice and then never again. They did the oven thing twice.
I'll actually clip that bit, Bear Digital, out of context. What was the exact words you said? They should have absolutely shoved Nana in the oven. They should have shoved Nana in the oven.
They should have.
I agree.
I only saw it once, and even if you do the oven thing once, you shove Nana in the oven.
All right, Dalton, I'll see you in jail.
There's no reason not to. So he beats Pop Pop. He has Pop Pop with the fridge. He beats his fake grandfather to death with the door of a fridge. All the while, this is what was baffling to me. All the while, the camera is just focused on like a thick old cast iron skillet. And it keeps cutting back to the skillet. And we all four of us were sitting there thinking he's gonna grab the skillet. We even said it.
He's gonna stab someone with the skillet. He's gonna beat him to death with
first
the
I
pan.
thought it was like a stabby kind of thing. I was like whatever that is. They focused on that twice. Whatever that is, he's gonna stab the grandpa with.
Right, it looks like a knife. It's it looks pointed, but then you realize that it's a pan or
a pot maybe, or a skillet, whatever.
So something
so
you
we're
crack
like
with a
okay,
handle.
it's a bashing thing. So he's gonna bash his grandpa.
It was cast iron specifically.
Yeah.
Right. I think Dalton
Great
said
for
at one
bashing.
point. Dalton said at one point, like, "Oh, he's gonna grab whatever liquid is in there that's boiling and throw it over the grandpa."
Right.
And then we were all
cool
wrong.
and great.
We were all wrong.
He just got.
He just
beaten
runs
with
into
the
him.
fridge.
He tackles him.
Which is
He
another
tackles
thing.
him, says some football stuff, and then kills him with the fridge.
Which is another thing. Like, these kids are in much better shape than these old people, and they're just getting they're getting it handed to them.
Yeah, these kids could absolutely beat the old people if they just tried.
All little girl had to do was just smack Nana once, and she'd be on the floor. But instead, she waits for Nana to thrust her head into a mirror.
I don't think you guys understand how thin old people's skin is. I've read stories.
Hold on, no, pause.
Daniel-
I'm gonna pause you right there. I'm gonna pause you right there, brother. I'm gonna pause you right there.
Pause.
Daniel has a fascination with old people's skin because he brought it up twice.
It's creepy. Well, it's creepy and also relevant.
I'm putting it on the record now.
Listen, can you let me finish my thought, Bobbin? Can you let me get my thought out?
Least psychopathic Daniel moment.
Look, I've read stories about old people who just like this lady in a bank. She slipped and fell over, and some guy tried to catch her, and he just pulled her skin off. Because when you get old, your body also gets old.
Old?
And your skin gets weaker.
No.
Is this set up for the movie Old? The beach makes you old.
It's it's so.
And your bones are brittle, just like.
That's what I'm saying. Push her. Her
Yeah,
hip
no,
will
I
break
agree.
upon impact with the floor. But instead,
Yeah, all you
this
have
girl,
to do is shove the lady, and she'll
the
get knocked out.
granddad. The granddad I get because they make a point of saying he's like an outdoorsman.
Right.
He goes out to just chop wood. He seems like the kind of guy who he wouldn't work out,
Right,
but
that's
he
another.
just go.
That's another thing. I thought the wood chopping was going to be a setup, and he was gonna shining it and try and come at one of them with an axe. Never
Nope.
happened.
That would have
Never
been more
did.
interesting than
Yeah.
any of
that
any
would
of the
have been
horror.
significantly more interesting than shoving a diaper in a kid's face.
Right.
We thought they
But
were
I
setting
think
up the
he
axe,
should've-
but they were setting up the
He should have
diaper.
He should have put poop on the axe, and he should have come at the kid with that.
And then like swung it at him. Yeah.
Yeah, and had the poop like fly at him. That way, it would have been a more subtle way of getting poop in his face than just diaper.
This movie has brought us about how you should put poop in a diaper's kid's face.
Like
Did-
Yeah, so-
the old man put his diapers in, was it like a barn, a shed?
It was a
He just
shed.
had like a
It was-
giant pile of diapers. Yeah,
Right,
that was
the
like
kid-
Right.
the
a
kids
jump.
find
That
it
was
earlier.
the diaper jump scare.
right.
Well, like the kid's like, oh, grandpa keeps going in the shed. Pop keeps going in the shed. Something must be up.
He's having
And-
pop in the shed.
He's having Pop in the shed. And so they go and check it out. And it's just poopy diapers. And the grandma's like, yeah, he has incontinence. It happens. We're old. We're
Right.
really old. You get it? We're old.
Get it?
We're
It's
weird because we're
foreshadowing.
We're
old.
old.
It's
2021.
But they presented it like a jump scare, like oh diapers.
I think it was meant to be a bait and switch because he said he was like is it dead bodies? He said 3 times, is it dead bodies? Which means M. Night Shyamalan is aware of the rule of threes and just chooses to ignore it in everything else in this movie.
it's
He
yeah, he did
spits in
say
your
that 3
face.
times.
it,
I hate this movie.
I hate M. Night.
so
Why
So
is
they
M.
killed
Night
the
considered a good
grandparents.
director again? Like, tell me.
because
'Cause
it's
he
one
hasn't-
good movie.
He made 2.
Go ahead, Dalton.
So they kill the grandparents, and it's stupid.
Yes.
And then the police show up because they had gotten in contact with their mother. Their mother calls the police show up. Everything's fine. The kid raps at the end. Roll credits. I want to move on to a segment of this episode of the podcast called Catherine Hahn is the worst mother in the world. And you guys didn't seem as shocked by this as I did when I came in halfway through. This mother, because you guys explained to me what was happening, and I like genuinely couldn't believe that was what they went with as the plot to get these kids to stranger grandparents' house.
Stranger Things.
This
Yo,
woman
Stranger Things reference?
has a bad relationship with her parents and has not spoken to her parents in 15 years and just decides, because by that point, if you haven't talked to somebody in 15 years, they're a stranger, you know? Like, they're not people you know, they are a stranger. If you have not spoken to someone in 15 years, they are not someone that you know anymore. 15 years is a very long time. So Catherine Hahn, because she's sick and tired of her stupid, annoying children, decides to send them to a group of to strangers' houses to stay with them for a week. And then every time her kids contact her to say, hey, we can't do this. We're scared, we're frightened, and weird, creepy things are happening. She's just like, oh, no, they're just old people. Like, it's fine. These strangers who I've just dropped you into their home are not creepy people. They're people I just hated so much that I didn't want to talk to for 15 years.
I like how Catherine Kahn, because the kids would call Catherine
what?
Kahn.
Catherine Kahn.
Catherine Kahn.
they would call the mom, and they'd be video chatting, and you'd see the mom at whatever weird thing, whatever quirky thing she was doing
The
at
hairy
the time.
chest contest.
Yeah.
And the mom didn't ask to see or talk with the grandparents.
Well, they did make a point of saying that the camera on the kid's side was broken at one point.
Well, but
because
even
the camera-
before that, though.
Yeah, I'm talking
Well,
before that.
I'm just thinking, like, I wouldn't put my kids unaccompanied on a train and just send them away. I'd probably go with them for the train ride, drop them off with the parents, and then head back.
Even if you're going to do that, don't send your kids to your parents who you have not seen in 15 years. Don't do that.
Nah, nothing bad could happen if you do that. You
Well,
should,
the,
everyone out there
Even
listening
if
that
that
has
was her real
children should do
parents,
that.
even if that was her real parents, there's a reason that you haven't talked to them in 15 years. And I'm
Well,
not.
the reason
The
is that
reason is-
she married an older man. The reason
Right.
is she got groomed, and her parents naturally didn't approve of that.
the reason was she met Ezra Miller.
It's just so frustrating to me for that to be the setup for this horrible twist.
Hey man, free Ezra Miller. He ain't doing nothing wrong.
Like,
He just ran on the run after grooming a child and supplying them with drugs.
Nah, you don't understand. If you hate Ezra Miller, you're transphobic or whatever.
I know that. I know how this movie was made. Shyamalan came up with the twist first and then wrote a movie around his twist because he had to figure out a way. Okay, so here's the thought process. He thought, okay, so these are not their real grandparents and the grandparents are going to try to kill them. Cool. That's the twist. How do I write a movie around that? And it's like he said, what's the dumbest way I can get them there without their parents seeing what happened? Like, and it is the dumbest way. If you wanted to do that in a way that doesn't make their mother seem horrible, both of their parents are dead and their grandparents get them. Like, that's what you do. I guess. I don't know. I would have made this movie
Well, yeah,
to
but then you
begin
don't.
with,
Then you don't have the happy ending of like, oh, they got back with the mum.
Right.
they get adopted by new parents or something. They go to their other grandparents who they like. It's just...
Well, it should have been like. It should have been you don't make this movie.
Yes.
I think
yes.
that's the ultimate solution.
But it's like, she is such a bad mother. And they don't set it up like she's a bad mother. She's not portrayed as a bad mother. She's portrayed as this, like, good woman. But she's a horrible person.
It's more that she's portrayed as like lighthearted. Like she jokes out of her kids instead of saying "I love you," she says "I hate you guys."
Right.
I don't think they try and set up or say that she is a good or bad parent. They just try and say
Right.
that
And
she is.
I don't think that in context she's necessarily either. I think she's just
Right, she's like
I don't know. She's just a parent.
She's just like, okay, these kids should
sent
probably
her
know their
kids
grandparents.
to stay for a week with strangers.
Well, so they set up that like
Yeah.
the parents or the grandparents at least would have talked to either the mom or the kids to set this up. Like they've been talking about this for a while. It's just that they got replaced at the last minute by the old people.
Right.
Yes.
Because they say, you know, they replaced the grandparents because the grandparents are talking about how their kids will come to stay with them for like a week.
Yeah,
And they were
absolutely.
looking forward to it. So
when you want to make
sense.
sure that your kids get to meet their grandparents, you go to dinner. You know? You have them over for Thanksgiving for the first time ever.
You go to Cracker Barrel.
You go to the Cracker Barrel. Right?
You take them to Waffle House.
Yeah.
And you put pepper in their water.
Right.
That never happened.
You don't
They'll never believe you.
like when you're introducing your kids to their grandparents for the first time because you're trying to reestablish a relationship with your parents, you don't send them to live with them for a week. You just don't do that.
Well, I think the idea is that she's a single working mom. Her husband left, within at least like the past year, I think. She hasn't had any time away from her kids or her job or both at the same time, at least. She's got like a new hunky, hairy-chested boyfriend. She wants to have a hot girl summer, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I also, in context, like this is the real life implication instead of the what the movie says. But in real life, if the kids were on a train on like alone, when they got to the station, the people who picked them up would need to have documentation that they are looking after them and that they are related to them in some way. So in theory, it's fine. It's just because it takes place in the Shyamalan verse.
It's not even like...
And on that note, it's like some of the weirdest things in this movie is like the real parts of it. Like
Real?
M. Night Shyamalan has never. It's like he's never interacted with people before.
He hasn't.
It's like M. Night
established that last
Shyamalan is
week.
an autistic man.
The way he writes children is like like they're full grown like adults, and the way he writes
Right.
like the logic of people is so insane to me.
We
I have a
established
new
last
theory.
week that he didn't know how human beings worked. That was something
Yeah.
we established when we watched The Happening.
I have a new theory about just kind of just M Night Shyamalan in general. I think all of his movies take place in the same universe.
Shut up, Josh. Nobody cares. Nobody
agree.
cares.
Maybe these people are leftovers from the happenings, and they've been happenings, but now they spread the happening.
Maybe the old lady in the crazy old lady in this is the same crazy
Same
old
crazy old
lady from The
lady, yeah.
Happening,
Yeah,
because they're
she
both
worked.
crazy old women.
The crazy old lady from the happening also was at the mental asylum rehab clinic that the grandparents worked at. This is also after Signs, so aliens exist in this universe, and people deal with it by rapping.
And how does Avatar: The Last Airbender factor into all this?
Avatar took place like 1,000 years ago.
And after Earth?
Actually, that
After Earth
okay,
takes
sorry, go
place
ahead.
later in the future.
Yeah, that's like 1,000 years after.
It's after
Cool,
Earth.
cool.
That
Right.
reminds me, Josh. So I'm gonna bring this up.
What could have possibly
at-
reminded you of?
I'm terrified.
Hold on now.
Of what this reminds you of.
Hold on.
Let the man speak.
At the end of this movie, after all the events of the film, and these kids are traumatized, they just went through a traumatic experience. The credits roll, and the boy wraps the movie.
Well,
he wraps up. He wraps
quite
what
literally
happens.
wraps up the movie.
Yeah, and it's like
We established that that's how he copes.
he trauma
Cope
dumps
ratio.
by rapping,
Right.
which is insane to me. Which is unfathomably
See,
crazy.
I thought that was
The most sane part of the
believable.
movie.
Yeah. Most sane M. Night Shyamalan character.
God,
I
this
just
movie's terrible.
I can't wrap my brain around the setup, and then
You
I
can't
also
wrap your
can't.
brain?
I also can't wrap my
No,
brain.
I think we know that you can wrap your brain, Dalton.
like I can't get past the mom already, and then I can't get past how the kids wind up defeating how the kids don't just realize to just beat up the old people. Every single
I
part of
can
this
kind
movie.
of get that. Like they are what? Do we know what age they're meant to be? But
Like
like
12 and like 16,
very
17.
very
15.
early teens, kind of. So I get, you'd be paralyzed with fear in that situation, I guess.
I mean, I don't know.
Every single part of this movie has such. Here's why I think this movie isn't scary.
Oh, there's many
Well,
reasons.
it's not scary because it's just straight up not scary. That's
Well,
not. You don't
yes.
need to think about that. You can watch this and not be scared by it.
Here's why even a legitimately like creepy vibey version of this movie wouldn't be scary regardless. Every single problem that is presented in this movie, every single threat that is presented in this movie is so easily avoidable that you know
Right.
it could never possibly happen.
Well, I'm curious because Josh, I know you said that there were 3 different cuts of this movie: one straight comedy, one straight horror, and then the one that was
final
released was a mix.
Yeah.
I'm
Which I don't-
very interested as to how those other cuts would have been different. Like morbidly curious. 'Cause I don't think they would have been better. I think
Well,
the
certainly-
pure comedy one would have probably made me happening myself.
Ironically, the pure comedy one is more horrifying than the pure horror, and vice versa.
Yeah, no, that's what I would imagine because M. Night
Well, I
Shyamalan
don't-
is insane.
When I was watching this, there were maybe 2 kind of moments that I think, okay, that is 100% without a doubt M. Night trying to be funny. But then outside of that, like I didn't.
I think everything with the kids like interacting was meant to be funny.
Right, I guess that's meant
Outside
to
of
be comedy.
their couple like dramatic moments.
I like that one moment where the kids are playing hide and seek in the like crawl space underneath the house, and then
Oh yeah,
the grandma joins in.
all the old lady jump scares, which I assume were meant to be scary, were friggin' hilarious. Like
Yeah.
those were the funniest parts of the movie.
There's,
Like when it's filming like from like the hidden camera and she just like pops up from off screen, she's got like
a knife.
stuff like hanging out of her mouth. Well, no, she doesn't grab the knife till after.
Oh, right. Or when
Come on,
she
man. Get it right.
when she's
the
chowing down on biscuits.
Yahtzee.
Yeah, she's got like crumbs all over her mouth. And,
Yeah,
That was
big fan of that.
It's just like it's when you think of like the scariest movies you could think of.
well,
Or even not even just the scariest movies you can think of. When you think of like solid horror movies, even if you go down to like slasher movies, whatever rabbit hole you want to go down with
When you
that.
think about a competent movie, this is not it.
Well, when
Well, look,
you
I-
think about
I-
those, the threat in those movies is always something that is inescapable. It's something that you
Right.
cannot avoid or escape.
well,
It's so easily avoidable and escapable in this movie that the threat is just like The Happening was not scary, but the
But
premise
it was a scary
is-
premise. Yeah.
The premise of that is genuinely frightening. It's this disease born of the trees that you cannot escape. Like you can't not get happened.
Nah, this Lorax movie.
But with
The
this one, it's like
bees.
with this one, it's just like I don't
Well,
know.
look,
Kick
I was
grandma
thinking-
in the crotch, and you're
All
fine.
right. I was
like-
thinking like
Rip off her skin. There are bugs under her skin. You need to let them out. Free the bugs.
there's because the movie is framed on found footage, which it shouldn't have been. It just straight up should not have been. But I was thinking like, okay,
That's far
The
from the
two-
worst part of this movie.
no. But I was
Right.
thinking the two main found footage movies that I think of, like to do with horror, are always Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity. They're kind of the two jump starters of the whole thing, and both of them work. First off, because they were shot on cheap cameras that do not look like movie cameras, and you go, oh, that looks kind of realistic. Like that's the kind of thing that a person could afford back then, or that's a security camera or whatever. And the other thing is that the like you say, the issue that they are dealing with is literally something they can't escape. They can't get out of this forest and they can't get rid of this poltergeist or whatever.
Nah, they can escape the Blair Witch. They just turn around or whatever.
And like, I don't know, the idea that people are replaced with psychopaths or whatever, yeah, that's inherently scary because Invasion of the Body Snatchers did it 1,000 times over. And it did it like much more effectively because you couldn't escape that. When it's just, these aren't the people you're meant to be staying with, you just go, oh, okay, and then you run out.
You
I
leave.
guess
Why
I
didn't
like
they
the-
leave?
There's a
I-
good amount of time from where they find out the grandparents are not the grandparents, and they just decide to stick around.
Do you know
Well,
how
yeah.
slow old people are?
I understand that because they are like in the middle of nowhere. Like where are they gonna go? I guess yeah. The girl could like steal their car or whatever. Actually, yeah, that's probable. Yeah,
Like,
that-
do,
yeah.
but do you get how slow old people are? Just run until they get tired and Grandpa poops his pants.
No,
like
didn't you see? You weren't there for the part when Grandma was zooming around the house. She's pretty speedy. She was running around on all fours under the house. She can book it.
Yeah, she was running around all fours, and they were trying to frame it as a creepy thing, even though the kids
It
were
was
doing
just
that
the
to each other.
funniest thing ever.
It was great.
There's no threat. There's no tension. You know the kids are gonna survive. Like, because how
I
could
wish they
not?
hadn't.
Like that would have been a better twist than the twist of this movie is that the
Yeah.
kids die. It's so this movie is so frustrating. Not for the usual reason why movies we watch are frustrating, because they're usually frustrating because there's like a glimpse of something that could be good in them. Like with The Happening, like we just talked about, it's a good premise, or like what's like the Star Wars prequels, like there's great ideas there. There's a lot of like, this could be good if they did this. There's no good version of this movie because there's no threat to this movie, and there's nothing good about it. Like, it's a little funny, and that's fun, but there's no version of this movie that is any better than this. Maybe a little better, but there's no good version of this movie.
But you couldn't like cut this or reshoot this to make it a better movie.
No, I think you could.
Well,
You
I
could
think
definitely cut it to make it a better movie if you cut it down to like 5 minutes.
I think Dalton said it best. There is a good version of this movie, and it's called a book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
A book version of this movie. Like, maybe it's the girl's, like, diary or whatever. Like, and it's just her, like, each day slowly realizing, like, creepy things are going on. And you can kind of, like, put yourself in there, and you can see your own grandparents in it.
can imagine the creepy things being creepier because you get to imagine them as opposed to just seeing them and realizing that that's not that creepy. It's just an old lady running on all fours.
Right? It's like, oh, the grandpa is dealing with incontinence.
He
I'm
put
sure
a
I'm gonna have to
shotgun
deal
in
with
his
that.
mouth.
I'm gonna have to deal with that at some point. It's the creepiness that you will grow old one day and also deal with this stuff.
Old?
Or
Is that foreshadowing?
Old? Is that old? 2021?
someday you might
The
grow
beach makes you
Avatar: The
old?
Last Airbender and have to deal with this stuff.
Sometime it might be after Earth.
Someday after Earth, you may Avatar: The Last Airbender when you're old. Someday you may have to
True.
get inside an oven to clean it.
Also,
they-
that had no setup at all.
Right? Well, they had that twice, and
it had
both
setup,
times
it just
Oh,
had
sorry,
no-
sorry. No,
just
no
had no
payoff.
payoff. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
did it the first time, and then it's fine. She doesn't do anything. And you're like, oh, okay.
Right. That was just a little bait and switch. You
I was
know, it's
really-
like, I've read Hansel and Gretel too.
I was like,
It's like,
I
oh,
get
this
it.
is creepy. They're gonna use this later, surely. And then they don't do that.
I think
right? They
perhaps
just
they
well,
will not
they
use
do it later. They do it later, and then she shuts
It's
the
a
oven
dead-
door,
Yeah.
and then nothing happens. They just
Yeah.
open it up again. She's like, "See, I told
It's
you."
like he
Like,
did, he
okay,
did the
that's not-
same like crappy bait and switch twice, and it just it didn't work the first time. I don't know why he thought it would work the second.
Yeah, like I don't know what were you going for there? If it would be creepy if she shut the oven and then started turning on the boy had to like fight the grandma with a ticking timer in the background. Like that'd be
Right.
cool.
While his sister cooked in the oven.
Right.
Yeah.
I will say
that
that scene is probably the creepiest scene that I saw because it's
Oh,
the
yeah.
only one with an actual threat. Like you can't get out of that oven; it's latched.
Right. Yeah. No. That one was genuinely
Because
like,
there's a threat. The
It was-
threat
it was-
is
it
I
was-
can be cooked alive.
it was a very creepy 5 seconds. I think
Right, that's what I'm saying. She should have been in the oven though, and then turn it on, and then
she should have been in the oven longer. I wish she would have
Yeah.
been in the oven longer.
We should have put Nana
I wish
in
she
the
had
oven.
actually. I wish she had actually been cooked alive.
Well, like if you put her in the oven and then you have the boy try and fight the grandma, you've got like a ticking bomb sort of situation where like he needs to figure out how he's going to get out of this within the next 3 minutes, otherwise his sister's going to die.
Dude,
But then-
it's gonna be much shorter than 3 minutes.
3 minutes,
You
right.
crank that bad boy up to 450.
Nana in the oven. Nana in the oven.
They really should have put Nana in the oven. I hate that they didn't.
You can make fun of me for saying put Nana in the oven, but there's no good version of this movie. Well, number one at all, but there's no moderately okay, maybe
no.
possibly version of this movie where Nana does not get put in the oven.
Nana should have been put in the oven, and the granddad should have been killed with the axe.
The good version of this movie is just The Shining.
The good version of this movie doesn't exist.
This
Are we
movie's
done?
bad.
Are we done?
Please.
Is that it?
Can we move on to a more interesting movie? A
No,
more entertaining
we're watching
movie?
Yeah, we've got-
No, we can't. We're watching 3 more M Night movies.
This
This will
is-
not be interesting.
This is a
We've got-
slog to sit
I
to,
think
to
we
get through.
at least 2 of those
No.
Night movies are going to be
No.
okay, and then one of them
No.
won't be.
No,
There may be some that are interesting to talk about.
I think we're going to have this exact same reaction to all these movies,
Like
except for maybe Avatar. I think
I watched
Avatar will have a
Old
good
in
discussion.
theaters, and Old was entertaining. It wasn't good, but it was entertaining.
Yeah, but
You
theater-
said before watching this movie, for context, you said that Old was awful, and
you
were
hated it.
so non-excited to watch it.
the
But
bar
Perhaps
now I'm
this
excited
is
to watch
entertaining.
Old
the
after
bar has
watching
been
The
set
Visit.
so low.
Man,
I am still excited.
Well,
I wonder
Bobbin,
why.
I will say the theater going experience can sway and frequently does sway your opinions on movies. And so you'll see what it's like to sit and watch it on Discord with your friends.
it'll be
There's-
even
there's-
better.
I'll save my old opinions for Old the movie discussion.
All right, let's wrap this up. This has been Semi-Pro Shyamalan Suite Part 1, The Visit. I hate it. Final thoughts. Don't watch this
Wait,
movie.
hold on. Isn't this part 2? Because we did Happening?
No,
No, the
happening
Happening
was
was
Marky
Marky
Mark's
Mark.
sweep.
Yeah.
Oh,
was
my bad.
That was the
Come on,
segue
man.
into the Shyamalan
I know you're
sweep.
new here, but just come on, get it together.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. What was I saying? Why?
We watched The Visit.
We
We visited.
We all hated it. There's no reason to watch this movie. There's nothing you will drag out of this movie and think, yeah, I kind of liked that. You just won't. Don't watch it. And next week we're gonna watch Old. If you are watching or listening on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, any of the podcast platforms, you could leave this a review. It helps to push this podcast out to other people. And episodes come out a week early there if you're watching on YouTube, so you can listen on our streaming platforms. Thank you for listening to Semi
I
Pro.
wish we had watched the Babadook instead.
If you just do whatever you want, man. I don't care. I don't want to do this anymore. We'll see you next week when we watch Old.